So, John, if you could dress up and fight as any toy ever, who would you pick and why?
Okay, so in the Toy Story movies,
Mm.
In Sid's house,
Yeah.
there's that baby doll head with spider legs.
Oh, with like spider legs made out of metal. Like,
Yeah.
Oh,
That thing.
that's the stuff of nightmares.
Exactly.
Some films are fine just the way they are. Other films sometimes take it way too far. Really, how hard could it get? Let's go beyond the box set.
Welcome, everybody, to Beyond the Box Set, a podcast where we pitch prequels, sequels, and spin-offs to films that don't have any. I'm Harry. Joining me as always is John.
Hello.
This is our final episode of our little Christmas series.
Not our final episode, though.
Is it not?
Not ever.
Oh, yeah. Final episode
splitting
of our Christmas series. We will be back. It's a very special episode because, John, you've got some very special guests on.
Yeah, it's our very first podcast crossover. We're very pleased to be joined by Paul and Paul from One Good Thing, a fabulous podcast. Well, you tell us about your podcast. How does it work?
Sure. Hello there. This is one of the two aforementioned Pauls. And, our podcast is called One Good Thing because we like to watch terrible movies and find the one good thing that's buried in there. We've already found good things about Jack and Jill. Do you want to go back and forth?
Literally can't remember any other film after
So
that.
you've just got the one
A
episode.
massive black hole.
Jack and Jill. Paul, over to you.
Yes, this is other Paul. Hello, everyone. Yes, we are gluttons for punishment. We will watch just about anything, and we are aiming to watch even more than that in the coming weeks.
We'll watch anything and more.
And we made you watch Lady in the Water once, which was one of your
Yes.
your best episodes, I think.
Oh, you did? That was horrendous. Thank you.
I hate myself ever since. Thanks.
Was this week's film choice Revenge, then, by any chance? Or
Ooh,
Absolutely not. This is a
Ooh.
treasured festive classic.
So this
Oh,
One that
is
you
it-
guys
is
would
it-
enjoy.
Is it what?
I feel like Jingle All The Way, it may be a single sort of execution style killing, but Lady in the Water was a Jean-Claude Van Damme style 64 bullets in the chamber onslaught. So we think we've got a while to go yet.
Okay, so what made you choose this film? What about it sort of screamed, hey, this needs sequelizing?
Die Hard was taken.
yeah, I vetoed Die Hard because that has too many sequels. And we
Fair
don't,
enough.
This technically we should say we're doing Jingle All The Way this week, the 1993, I think, Arnold Schwarzenegger festive classic
Sweet Christ,
question mark.
Is it that old?
It is. It's mid 90s definitely, and it's timeless. Obviously, it hasn't aged a bit. But
Oh yeah, I felt like it was this year.
But just to say before we get any angry letters, this film does actually have a sequel. Technically, there is a direct-to-DVD sequel called Jingle All The Way 2 with none of the original cast, and replacing Arnold Schwarzenegger is something called Larry the Cable Guy. I'm not intimately familiar with his work, but to be honest, there's not that many Christmas films that don't have sequels that are of note. This seems like it's going to be a fun film to talk about, so who cares? And you know what? It's our podcast. We'll do whatever the hell we like, so fuck you.
Yeah, fuck
Not
the
you,
system.
but any listener who might be annoyed that we're doing a film that has a sequel can go to hell.
But this
get
is our
fucked,
one rule.
listeners
So it's never failed for us so far.
Yeah.
But yes, Jingle All The Way was kind of my choice once Die Hard was shot down. Yeah, I don't know why. It's in the festive rotation for me. Every year, it's always something that's just on in the background whilst we're
Wait,
doing
sorry, you've
better
watched
things.
this more than once?
Yep.
Oh, God,
In
no.
fact,
Wow.
my
Paul.
watching it in preparation for this was purely a
Perfunctory.
formality. It was entirely unnecessary, as I am able to recite the film by heart by now.
Oh, my God.
Jesus, I haven't
Yeah.
seen it since I was 10, 8.
Now,
Eight.
I've got some questions for you two, because this film, it was painful. It was oh, God, it was... Do you guys do this every week?
I think we go deeper. I mean, this was a holiday for us.
Yeah, man. Very
I mean-
few minorities got insulted. No one got shat on.
It wasn't,
At any
it wasn't
stage.
just plain mean, right, and black to its core.
Yeah, I didn't hate
Nice.
myself or society after it was over. I think we got off
Yeah.
lightly this week.
Hugged a family member afterwards. I felt great.
You looked him in the eye.
Yeah.
Didn't do that shit after Jack and Jill.
So, Harry, I'm guessing you've never seen this before then?
No.
Did you know anything about it?
I knew from the cover that Arnold Schwarzenegger was in it. That was it.
Okay. So what were your initial impressions? You said it was painful, obviously, for you, but other than that?
Well, it got to the point where Jake Lloyd was introduced. I'm like, it's Jake Lloyd. Star Wars. Wait, he's younger than he is in Star Wars. Wait, did he get Star Wars after doing this film? How? How?
I really liked the thought of Steven Spielberg just watching this in a cinema and going, guys, we've found him. This is
Trust
the one.
me, guys, it's going to be the next Hayden Christensen.
Oh, that hurts.
I want the Turbo Man action figure with the arms and legs that move, and the boomerang suitor, and the rock and roll jetpack, and the realistic voice activator that says 5 different phrases, including "It's Turbo Time!" Accessories sold separately, batteries not included.
But so, yeah, Jake Lloyd combined with Arnold Schwarzenegger, for whom, I mean, he is a movie star. He's a great movie star in many ways. Dialogue is not his friend, I would
Never
say.
was.
Never was. And the scenes when Arnold Schwarzenegger and Jake Lloyd are acting together and there's no one else in the scene, it's like anti-acting.
I felt kind of uncomfortable watching Jake Lloyd and Arnold Schwarzenegger share screen time. Less uncomfortable than watching Sinbad share screen time with anyone.
Yeah, Sinbad's character, to me, he seemed to be suffering from some profound emotional problems throughout this film.
Yeah, very definitely, because he's meant to be the villain of the piece, but his motivations aren't great. Like, his big scene, his character moment in the dino, where he's like, I never got a Johnny 7 gun when I was a kid, and my neighbor did, and now he's a billionaire, and I'm not. So there's a lot of class stuff going on, because he's like a mailman. But, yeah, so he doesn't want his son to grow up to be a mailman.
He's very Fathers for Justice, I thought.
Yes.
Just want to see my kids.
Yeah, I don't think his kid exists.
So he just wanted it all for himself, is that
That would
it?
have been a great twist.
Oh.
I feel like his kid is stuffed in his basement. Like, his kid is dead. Like, it's like with Psycho in reverse.
Wow, John, you're going dark this week. It's not a dark week, are you?
It's Christmas, everyone. Hooray.
Merry Christmas, yeah. Infanticide.
Come on, old buddy. Give me the package. All right? Come on. You call me buddy. Yeah.
I am not your buddy. I tried to be your teammate. I wanted to be your friend. But no! You had other plans for mine, Larry.
No, I had no plans.
You are no different than the rest of those civilians, those common letter writers who make fun of my knee socks and my safari hat in the summer.
The one character that I was happy to share screen time with through and through was Phil Hartman. Ted, is it?
Yeah,
I
Ted.
believe it's Ted,
He's
yeah.
wonderful. He's wonderful. I love Phil Hartman.
I'd say that he was probably the best actor in this, but the character, I'm not such a fan. Wasn't much interesting about him. He was just creepy.
I mean,
Whereas
I don't
recently
know.
the other guys were trying to chew the scenery.
One thing I'd kind of forgotten is that he is fucking that whole town, right? Like, that's a detail I think I overlooked when I was a kid, is that he's the Pat Mustard of this little neighborhood.
Yeah, he's the hottest bachelor in the whole town, but he only has eyes for Rita Wilson and her weird, terrible 90s Jennifer Aniston hair.
Oh God, it's fantastic. There's that scene when they're at, what is it, karate? Judo?
Yeah, the
Martial arts,
karate,
isn't it?
yeah.
Yeah, the martial arts boys. And
Yeah.
all the mums are like, oh, thank you for coming over and screwing that shelf in. Thank you for coming and plugging that hole. And he's just, and his eyes have this real, like, waxwork. He's got a waxwork face and his eyes darting nervously about.
Do you know what? With his little smile and his slow drunkard's eyes, he kind of reminded me of like a Ryan Reynolds performance at times, which is in a very good way. But like, yeah, he had that lasciviousness to him.
You're right. And it was quite nice to see somebody with acting chops, around with, Sinbad doing his thing and Arnie doing the Arnie thing and Jake Lloyd just surviving day to day.
Just get through the day, get through the shop.
Yeah, it was just really nice to have somebody who was good at acting and good at comedy.
I think there's some underutilized talent going on here, because actually Rita Wilson with her Jennifer Aniston hair, in the moments where she was given something funny to do, I feel like she really kind of shone. Like, she had some really fun facial reactions and line deliveries, but unfortunately she's in a 90s comedy, so she has to be relegated to the straight person who occasionally looks at the ridiculous men and goes, "Oh."
Oh, I just found her so boring. I've got to say. Again, it's not her fault. The writing, all of her lines were just reactions to things. Like, she had nothing, no personality of her own whatsoever. So I felt like she was phoning it in a little bit. But yeah, I mean, when it was the family scenes with her and Arnold Schwarzenegger and Jake Lloyd, I mean, she looked like Meryl Streep by comparison. So
There's very little time spent with the family and sort of exploring that dynamic. There was a point after he spent all morning trying to get a Turbo Man doll that he calls home, and it was just like, oh yeah, he's got a family.
That's why he's doing all this.
Yeah.
And do you know what? If we're talking about the stuff that Arnold Schwarzenegger is doing, it's mostly breaking the law, right?
Yeah, it's mostly breaking laws and beating random people up.
And wanton destruction of property.
Frequently assaults a police officer.
Assaulted a child in a ball pit.
Yeah. I'm sure he steals something there, and then with the bomb in the radio station, it's just like falling down, isn't it?
There's definitely a very dark take on this film that could be made, like just a slightly different edit. It would be like a typical Arnold Schwarzenegger film, really. Like it might have been a better use of his talents.
Yeah.
If it was like a falling down style film where he's mad as hell and he's not going to take it anymore, and he just goes on this killing spree across the city over Christmas.
Yeah.
One step away from that, he's sitting on a doorstep giving a deer some beer. And anything after that is it's just going to be eyes wide shut, isn't it?
Oh,
Yeah.
that deer.
I think the moment he punches a reindeer in the nose and the reindeer falls to the floor and goes, ow, was my personal low point of this movie.
That's the thing, is this is meant to be like a comical kind of goofy film. I think before that you have the scene where a guy opens a bomb and it explodes.
Yeah.
And then it just cuts back to him and he's just like sooted.
He's got a
Like in a
sooty
cartoon.
face.
Yeah, he's got a sooty face. And it's like, oh, this is a cartoon. You've implied that in no way before this. Nothing like that has happened before this. No character has run really fast at a door and left like a man-shaped hole in it behind him. It's like that was the first like crazy thing, and then after that it just gets crazier and crazier. It's very incongruous and weird.
The bit that got me was the whole scene at the end of the parade where he's in this suit and it's a fully functioning suit.
Yes.
It's exactly the same functions as we see in the show at the start of the film.
Yeah.
Like, it's not even toned back. It's not like it's a costume. It's got everything. Like, imagine if in 2017 somebody had an Iron Man suit.
Yeah.
Like an actual Iron Man suit, and it works perfectly. And they used it at parades.
This parade had a big budget. I mean, they could afford Sonic the Hedgehog.
Yeah.
Oh, Liza, it looks like Dementor has beaten Turbo Man.
Oh, no, Gale. This could be the end of civilization as we know it.
Do something, Turbo Man! Use your turbo disc!
What?
On your arm!
Hey, Marin, I have a special delivery for you.
Oh, it appears that Turbo Man has saved the day.
The tonal shifts, I definitely noticed those too. The jarring shifts in tone from like disturbing levels of destruction and violence to, very cartoonish moments and the very sentimental moments. It just made me think, like, who is this movie for? Like, who do you think it was aimed at?
Well, Paul, I guess.
Kids who the movie studio thought were idiots, I think.
There's that, but there's also the fact that Arnie was in a lot of comedies back in his sort of phase one of his career. And I think the idea was, all of them, every single one of them, the idea was, it's Arnie. Arnie with his one-liners and his big muscles and his guns. It's him, but in a ludicrous situation. Oh, he's gotten pregnant. Oh, he's got Danny DeVito as a twin. Oh, he's trying to find a child's toy. Like, that's comedy as far as Arnie's involved. And so I think maybe also it was aiming at, let's get the guys who like Commando to come in and see Arnie doing a ridiculous child's toy thing. But the joke stops there, is the thing.
Well, if the joke is that this is Arnie, tough man Arnie, who spends the rest, his other films decapitating people with saw blades, he's kind of in this role. He's doing what Robert De Niro then did in his 50s, where he was the tough guy going into a comedy role.
Yeah,
isn't this hilarious? If only they'd have seen Jingle All The Way. We could have saved on a lot of misery and heartache.
Oh, speaking of things not being set up, like his tough guy thing, the idea that this is Arnie, tough guy, doesn't come into play until he threatens Chris Parnell.
Yes.
Up until then, he's just hapless. Could have been played by Tim Allen, dad.
Yeah.
That really struck me as well, is the sense that he's not used as Arnie. They've barely referenced him being, unnaturally strong or unnaturally large or anything. Like, there's one line Phil Hartman says, he says, you can't bench press your way out of this one. But other than that, he could literally be... I thought this is the only movie I've ever seen that might actually have been improved by the presence of Adam Sandler.
No, well... you say that.
Just by virtue of the fact that Adam Sandler speaks English.
A lot of this, Arnie started reminding me of Tommy Wiseau.
Yes.
from the
There
room,
are some
Yeah.
very Wysosian lines.
There were, and obviously the accent as well really adds to it, but I think they're interchangeable.
I think if remake this film with Tommy Wiseau,
Yeah.
it'd be the same film. I mean, there were parts, much like The Room, there were parts of this, again, mostly when it's Jake Lloyd and Arnold Schwarzenegger together. That the one scene when they're in the kid's bedroom, Jamie's bedroom, and he's trying to bond with him, and he's kind of trying to make him laugh for a while, and it's so uncomfortable and weird. But yeah, when it's the two of those in particular, the dialogue is so poor and the acting is so poor, it feels like they're improvising badly. Like, it doesn't feel like they're reciting a script. There's no like comic beats to it. It's just like, oh, what do I say? And then just whatever comes into Arnie's head, he says very, very stiffly.
There's one moment where I really feel strongly that Arnie is improvising, and it's when he and Sinbad are running to the radio station in order to try and get the doll. And while Sinbad's desperately he's doing physical comedy, he's throwing mail out of his bag in order to lighten his load, or possibly look for the bomb that he's going to pretend to have. But Arnie is rehearsing the names of the reindeer, and I feel like the director maybe said to him, "Be happy. This is your moment of triumph. Be happy." So his line is something like, "I'm having a good time. Bye."
Dasher dancer, prancer, vixen, comic, Cupid, Donald. Dasher dancer, prancer, vixen, comic, Cupid, Donald. I'm having a good time. Bye.
Again, very Tommy Wiseau-esque.
Very Wiseau.
I will say something that Arnie has that Tommy Wiseau definitely does not is an expressive face. Or a face capable of more than one expression.
Does have some expressions.
It's when his eyes narrow and his teeth are glimmering and he bares his fangs.
Big.
Yeah, he is a threatening Arnold Schwarzenegger at times, and that comes through in this film. So make all the comparisons to Tommy Wiseau that you want. He does at least have the facial expressions of an angry bear.
He also has some really fun, delighted facial expressions. My favourite being when he figures out that he could drive in the SOS lane, going down the motorway. He's so happy. He can't believe it. He can't believe he figured this out. He just looks delighted. He's looking at all the other drivers like, look at this.
There's a lot of wide-eyed reaction shots as well. Like he has the oh shit moments. Like when Rita Wilson says, "Oh, I'm sure that toy's sold out all over the country right now," and then he almost looks direct to camera, and his eyes just go so. It's like I almost feel like he's gonna slap his cheek, and then there's gonna be a freeze frame, and the credits are gonna roll.
Yeah.
It's gonna be a Dick Van Dyke slapstick moment.
Maybe that's what he was going for.
I will also say that Turbo Man looks like a rubbish toy.
It looks like shit.
There's nothing I want about that toy.
Well, I mean,
No.
it depends. If it's got all the functions, the
Working
jetpack and the
jetpack.
boomerang that always works. If it does that, great.
You take it to the playground. Watch this. And it disappears into the distance. Wasn't that good?
The opening scene of the movie is obviously we see an episode of Turbo Man. That's our first scene. While I was watching that, I kind of thought to myself, "Oh, this is funny." They're kind of parodying Power Rangers because Power Rangers did always look a little bit janky. But then the whole rest of the movie looks just as bad, and I was it's not. Maybe they were kind of parodying it, but also the whole movie really is a shitty looking movie. Like all the effects are really poor.
Oh god, the flying effects at the end.
Oh
Wow.
yeah.
This is uncharitable to say, but it did put me in mind of Spider-Man 2001, which the special effects are dated just about as well as the special effects in this one.
And the reindeer, I'm not sure the effects on these ever looked that good though. Like when the reindeer cuts between being an actual reindeer and an obvious puppet.
Why couldn't they have Arnie punch an actual reindeer? I'm pretty sure in Conan 1 and 2, the Barbarian and the Conqueror, they had Arnie punching actual livestock. I don't see why.
For the record,
have done
I
that here.
prefer him not punching animals.
All right, veggie.
Sorry.
Harry's a fully signed up member of PETA. He doesn't like to talk about it.
You picked a wrong day. You started it.
I will say probably for me the most unbelievable thing is the fact that Jamie didn't recognise his father's voice in the Turbo Man outfit.
Oh my god. Who other than Tommy Wiseau has that voice?
Tommy Wiseau?
Yeah. Sure, kid.
Yeah, because the Turbo Man helmet doesn't cover his face. The lower half of his face is clearly visible.
Yes.
He knows his son's name because he knows my name.
Yeah.
And he's a heavily accented 6 foot
Giant
something giant of a man who knows your name. And even the wife the same. When he takes off the helmet, the Rita Wilson reacts as though, oh my god, it was you the whole time. It's like a Scooby-Doo ending or something. But what's wrong with these people?
She looks at him and it's like, ooh, Howard, like, did you not notice you were married to Arnold Schwarzenegger? I didn't know where you've been hiding those. Thanks with pecs.
This is the thing though. Like, none of our dads are Arnold Schwarzenegger. Well, no, my dad is not Arnold Schwarzenegger, and I've met Paul's dad, and he's not Arnold Schwarzenegger. But I would still recognise my dad under a Turbo Man outfit, even if his whole face was covered. I think, his body, general shape looks familiar. Oh, that's definitely his voice. Dad that I've known for 10 years. Is that how old Jake Lloyd is in this?
I think so, yeah.
Even a voice that I've known for a week, I think I'd be able to pick that one out. So for Arnie to come in and just be like, strange little boy, never mind who I am.
I am the Turbo Man.
Yeah. Oh, cool. That's weird, but cool.
I don't have high hopes for their future father-son relationship, to be honest.
No.
I don't think it's going to end well. Like,
it's amazing. It's stunning that the film doesn't end with him and his son. That's what the movie's about. It ends with him being carried away from his son by a crowd of strangers. That's amazing. It's just like, let's all celebrate this dad. Being great. He deserves it.
That's what Christmas is about.
I mean, the stakes of this movie are that this horrible bratty child will he or will he not get this doll for Christmas? It's like, I don't care. I think he should not get the present, frankly.
Dad of the year.
Aww.
I understood the whole thing of him being a slightly neglectful father and everything, but the scene where the son like slams the door in his face and then like yells at him, and that's the point when your dad, or my dad anyway, would lay down a bit of discipline and be like, you know what, maybe you don't deserve this toy for Christmas.
Yeah, don't you slam the door in my face. That's
Exactly.
it. No dinner for a week. We all had that, right? We all had that threat, right?
Total lack of discipline.
Buy something. I'll buy something for you.
Yeah.
This film is about buying a child's love. That is essentially the message of this movie, is that you can buy a child's love.
Or put his life and your life in danger until he's forced to develop Stockholm Syndrome.
Fucking hell, this film is dark. He almost died, everyone.
I don't think this film is dark. I think this film should have been dark. That would have fixed it.
If it was like a Roald Dahl style kind of thing. Yeah.
No, you're right. A terrorist incident in a public place is milquetoast.
A couple of references get made to like terrorism, and I think, oh my god, does Sinbad at one stage, whilst he's on the floor, start shouting Rodney King?
He does. I found that really shocking. I feel like Sinbad was improvising a lot. I feel like he genuinely was just making it up on the fly, and people were just letting him go with it, because all of his dialogue felt like watching somebody do a bad like open mic slot. He was he wasn't speaking in dialogue. He was speaking in stand up.
Yeah.
He was doing little mini routines every time he had a chance to say more than a line or two in a row.
Yes. And actually, one of my favourite moments came from when he's in the crowd doing his stand-up routine about, everything. Just kids and his wife and all sorts. There's a woman over Arnie's shoulder who's like looking at him like he's just insane. Like initially like, oh, let's hear what this man has to say. And then she gets gradually more and more unhappy about being this close to Sinbad. And I thought, who is this woman? Why have I never noticed her? And she's the woman he grabs and starts throttling with the fur. I didn't notice that she gets introduced like throughout that whole scene.
He does fly into these incredible rages through the whole film. Like, obviously, there's a point where he calls in a bomb threat. Yeah. He pepper sprays Arnie at one point.
I'd forgotten about that. That was really quite something.
It was so out of the blue.
Yeah.
Was that before or after they decided to pursue the woman with the last Turbo Man and mug her?
I love the moment when she looks in the rearview mirror and without knowing anything about him just sees Arnie running after her and is like, shit, and floors him.
Smart woman, smartest character in this film. I want to go back a little bit too. You mentioned earlier how Turbo Man looks like shit, and one question I really had throughout this film was what was his sidekick? Turbo Man's sidekick, he has this pink kind of saber-toothed...
Booster!
Yeah.
It's called Booster. What is Booster supposed to be?
Like a parody of... I think he's meant to be like the Ewoks. Like, he's meant to be the weird sort of furry creature that they introduced to be... Like, I can only think... This whole thing was, like, based on Power Rangers and such, and they had, like, Alpha 5. Mm-hmm. Maybe he was meant to be that, like the annoying comic relief sidekick.
No, maybe.
But he's kind of like... He's a pink, hunchbacked, saber-toothed tiger in golden Y-fronts.
And everything about his... What is he? No.
Yeah, literally, what is it? Because everything about his appearance was profoundly upsetting. Like...
Actually, do you know what he was? He was my favourite part of the whole movie, particularly when the kids gang up on him and chant,
"We hate you!"
Yeah, we hate you, Booster, as they lay into him, just kick 7 shades of shit out of him.
I can understand why.
He gets the least deserved comeuppance of any fictional character. It was wonderful. That was a genuinely hilarious bit, and for him, I think him and Phil Hartman saved this experience for me. They saved Christmas 2017.
Yeah.
So is that what you guys would say is one good thing about this film?
It's Booster.
For me, Phil Hartman would be the one good thing about this film.
I'd be on board with that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Booster a distant second.
Hey, buddy, this ain't the way we rehearsed it.
You know what? Nobody likes you, Booster.
Oh, wow!
We don't like you, Dad!
We hate you,
So another character we've not really talked about much yet is the police officer, who is kind of Arnold Schwarzenegger's kind of occasional...
Victim.
Victim, absolutely. He's supposed to be an antagonist, but really he's the victim. He undergoes so much in this film. He is, as we've mentioned, he's blown up. You know, that should have killed him.
Yeah.
He has, but the most disturbing scene for me is when he has scalding hot coffee poured all over his face and into his eyes, and then Arnold just leaves him in the road, just goes, sorry, and then just runs on.
He doesn't react like, he reacts, ah!
Yeah, it's genuinely chilling. It's like, get that man to a hospital.
My favourite bit is when Arnie knocks over his bike and he's like, you broke my little mirror. It's just so, I don't know, sweet the way he says it. Just like, oh no, your mirror. Oh.
He seems very elderly for a police officer.
He does.
He's totally one day away from retirement.
Yeah.
Last day on the job for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, his face when he realises who Turbo Man is it's pretty heartbreaking. It says it all, really.
Yeah.
It's a face of real pain.
He should still arrest him, though.
Man. So he gets to watch this man win. Yeah, be carried off in a crowd full of people who love him.
Again, there is a side movie to this movie starring this guy, and it is Falling Down or something like that. It is just this poor police officer, one day for retirement, getting mutilated, just having the worst day in the world, and it concluding with him realizing that it was all for nothing.
As they carry Arnold Schwarzenegger away, where the crowd goes, "Yay! Better than the police ever were! Hooray!"
Did you notice, by the way, just an aside? I never noticed this before. The number of times I've seen this, in front of the Turbo Man float is a policeman float.
Really?
Oh,
With
I
a
did
big
see that,
paper mache policeman and a police officer doing somersaults on a trampoline.
Yes.
Kids love
all
police officers.
Like all floats, like all parades.
Just because they work in security doesn't mean they can't have a little fun.
That's
true, actually, Paul. You monster.
Yeah, I am. I want them to be just downtrodden.
They should have been working on cracking that Christmas sweatshop operation that was running halfway through the movie, which made very little sense.
Never mind. Arnold Schwarzenegger's always around to punch a little person.
to punch Vern
Across
Troyer
a
square in the face. Did we see him get up?
Yes, because later on he scurries underneath a
Under a
production
table.
line, and a police officer comically knocks his head as he runs after him.
Jesus, Arnold Schwarzenegger impersonates a police officer. That's another law broken.
Yeah.
That's a serious one.
There's a scene when he's Turbo Man, when he's flying, there's a scene where he just flies through some poor family's apartment while they're praying and just destroys it completely. And I'm guessing they never get reimbursed for that. That's a really crappy Christmas for that family. What was your biggest laugh out of the film? Because it is allegedly a comedy.
It was definitely the kids physically hurting Booster.
It's not even supposed to be funny.
I think it is.
I think it is, with the kids chanting, "We hate you, Booster."
Yeah, it's every time Booster is mentioned, 'cause it happens in the toy store as well. Like, they've got plenty of Booster toys left. The reaction is visceral hatred.
Yeah. Oh, I had a genuine laugh moment when the kid says, the reindeer is also called Ted. So when the kid says, "Oh, Mum's next door petting Ted," he says, "She's what?" And his "she's what" face I found vaguely amusing. Because it was actually not over the top. It was relatively withdrawn. Of just, what? Like, he's too exhausted to be fully upset by this.
They got a lot of mileage out of double entendres about Phil Hartman having sex with Rita Wilson, didn't they? Because There's that whole phone call where he says, "Ooh, Liz's cookies taste so good."
Yeah.
Oh,
Is
your
that
wife's cookies. Oh.
You have to help me on this. What are cookies? Is that supposed to be her vagina? What are we to understand that Arnold is misunderstanding about this situation? Like,
Put the vagina down.
because he's like, "You stay away from my wife's cookies. Put the cookies down." Like, what does he think is happening? Like, does he just really like those cookies?
In America, it actually means virginity. I think it's to do with the hymen.
Oh, really?
Oh,
Yeah, America is a crazy place.
Well, so they've
like the
never
Wild West out
consummated the
there, so.
marriage. I mean, it's never like confirmed that Jake Lloyd is their biological son.
I mean, it's unlikely given he's got no Austrian accent of any kind.
Yeah, true, exactly.
Exactly.
I feel he's just a latchkey kid.
Yeah, safe from a train station.
Yeah.
It's like Lion.
Merry Christmas, Langston residents.
Hi, Ted?
Howard! Hey, buddy! How's it going out there? Everything okay?
Yeah, fine. Ted, I need to speak to Liz. Could you get...
Oh! Howard, excuse me, but your wife's cookies are out of this world.
Who told you you can eat my cookies?
I'm just helping Liz out a little in the kitchen. She's making up a storm here. Oh, these cookies! I gotta get the recipe from Liz.
Put that cookie down! Now!
Yeah, so my one and only significant laugh, and I did laugh pretty hard to be fair, it's the scene when Arnold Schwarzenegger breaks into Ted's house to steal the Turbo Man and accidentally starts a fire and then panics and kicks the head of one of the three wise men out the window, and it lands and it sends a bunch of carol singers screaming. That did make me laugh. I found that pretty funny.
That's good, actually. I hadn't thought of that.
Also, in what world are carol singers ever that good?
Yeah.
And that numerous as well. I mean, here in England, carol singers, if you get them, it's like 3 people from the local church group who show up, or like 2 scary-looking teens.
Oh, no. In Wales, it's completely different. I'm from mid-Wales, and when it's Christmas time, we get about 3 Land Rovers drive up to our house.
Oh, my
and
God.
about 20 or 30 people all pile out, and nobody wants to be there. And they all just sort of push their way through Deck the Halls, and it's bloody awful. And then you give them like 20 quid and they leave.
Sounds magical.
It is. Looking forward to it. Not long now.
Yeah, well, I don't know. The England I know, I double lock my doors on Halloween and Christmas. So
Same.
don't want anything to do with anyone.
Harry, what was your biggest laugh, if you can identify one?
Oh, I don't think I have one. Not sure if I did.
Oh, man.
Yeah. I'm sorry, guys.
Okay. It was a complete stony face start.
My biggest problem with this film was at the end when the parade's happening and all the floats stop and they start putting on a show or whatever, and then he's supposed to go and give a doll to a kid or whatever. Well, what about all the people who were behind that float? Because that float had a big back to it. Nobody could see the show.
Or what about the people like waiting at the other end of the street for the float to come past? Because a parade is quite long usually, the route.
Yeah,
and they're just like, are they going to do this again when they get here? Because I'm feeling like we're not getting the most out of this.
Yeah, it was a little unfortunate. I didn't like that. I didn't appreciate that.
No.
Shall we get to some drinking games? Is a section of this podcast we do quite a lot. So, did you guys manage to come up with any drinking games for this film that you might want to suggest for us? Should we ever decide to subject ourselves to it again?
I did actually have one. Anytime Marnie or Sinbad break the law, you
solid,
drink
very
along.
good.
Yeah, simple.
Anytime you get the impression that some dialogue wasn't scripted, would be one. Just, I'm pretty sure no, this was not written down by a person onto a page and then approved by studio executives.
I wonder if the script for this film was just like a 1-page plot synopsis and they just kind of went out there and shot it on the fly. Like...
We've got a spare weekend.
Yeah.
Let's just do it. Then we've always got a film in hand.
Yeah, he's in between Terminators right now. He's bored.
Yeah.
Drink every time there's an overlong and pointless montage.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. There's a lot of montaging. Yeah.
Solid.
Yeah. I felt like because this film was very short, I felt like the montages were just to push it up to that 90-minute minimum for it to qualify as a film. So.
Yeah, unbelievably, it's like an hour and 22 minutes long, and there's then 15 minutes of credits.
Yeah, I found that too. But it's worth it for that amazing post-credit scene.
What?
Did you not catch the post-credit scene?
I have never in my life caught the post-credit scene.
You missed one of the best jokes in the film. Oh my god. So if you
have to rewatch it now.
Yeah, if you sit through those 15 minutes of credits, There is a scene where Arnie is placing his star on top of the Christmas tree, surrounded by his adoring family. I'm blowing your mind. I can't believe this. And Rita Wilson just laughs and looks adoringly at him and says, "You know, Harry, when I think about all the things you went through for little Jamie today, it just makes me wonder, what did you get for me?" And then he looks dead to camera, the eyes widen, and boom, film ends.
What the fuck? I never knew that.
How many times have you seen this?
I've seen that. This is like telling someone that there's a post-credit sequence to Toy Story. Like,
Wait a minute, what?
Howard, I've been thinking. Everything that you went through today for Jamie really shows how much you love him. And if you're willing to go through all of that for him just for a present, well, that makes me wonder.
What?
What did you get me?
You wouldn't really get very drunk off mine, but drink any time you laugh.
Well, you would be stone cold sober,
Yeah.
apparently. You couldn't name one.
That's a hate game. That's not a drinking game.
Yeah.
It's a game for somebody who hates life and people.
Yeah. Well, that's basically Harry.
Yeah,
in
meet
a
me.
nutshell.
Hi.
Any more?
Just,
you can drink every time there's a reference to Phil Hartman nailing one of the other women.
Yeah.
Just drink continuously for as long as Sinbad's on the scene.
Oh, God.
Well, that's kind of involuntary, really.
Yeah. Well, this is an excuse then, isn't it? It's not so much of a game.
Yeah.
See, I had to shop late because it's the busiest time of year for me. All these important Christmas letters that people send to folks they don't even talk to but once a year. Not to mention relatives sending presents they're going to have to send back anyway. How many toiletry kits does a man need? How about these little stupid letters from kids to Santa at the North Pole? Dear Santa, could you send me a bike and a slinky? No, your father's been laid off.
I think it's time for some sequels.
Oh, we have a sequel.
Oh, good.
Okay.
Would you prefer to go first or second?
We'll go first if that's okay.
Sure, go for it.
Go right ahead.
Thank you. I think we started by discussing the most important aspect, and whenever you're doing a creative endeavor, you have to start with this, the title.
Mm-hmm.
We had a few options. We had Jingle 2, Jingle Harder.
Nice.
Jingle All The Way with a Vengeance. Jingle All The Way into Darkness. Jingle All The Way Beyond. I Still Jingle All The Way.
Still jingle.
In the end, we settled on J2 Jingle Day.
Very nice. Very nice.
And I think the rationale here is just the idea that in Jingle All The Way, the crazy elements come out of nowhere and are really jarring.
Mm-hmm.
So the best way to solve this is just to go crazy right off the bat.
Mm-hmm.
So we have a prologue planned for you guys. Goodman, are you ready?
Yes.
Okay. Establishing shot of a snowflake drifting down from the sky over a city at night. We hear the familiar opening notes of Carol of the Bells. As it peacefully drifts down to the street level, it gets wiped out by a delivery truck. The lyrics start.
Hark how the bells, sweet silver bells, all seem to say, throw cares away.
Keep panning down in the same shot, and beneath the road, there is revealed to be a street with a large department store on it with tents and roll-out beds outside. Cut to a boy in the snow. His parents asleep in the sleeping bag behind him, and he's looking at a mean-looking security guard on the other side of the glass. And as their eyes meet, his grip tightens on the baton.
Too young and old, meek and the bold.
Inside the store, which has its lights off for some reason, we see guards are patrolling sentinel-like with their flashlights picking out the empty aisles. Two men are stocking shelves with bright yellow and red boxes, illuminated by the cascading light coming from the storeroom behind them. As they turn to leave, one carefully slips one of the boxes into his jacket. This is precious.
With joyful ring, all caroling.
Establishing shot of a window that has been prized open, pan to show the culprit, a frightened-looking middle-aged man with a beanie and dark clothes. His face is ruddy from the cold weather outside. He sneaks down the aisles, avoiding the lights.
One seems to hear words of good cheer from everywhere.
Finds his way to the boxes, and as he lays his hands on one, a light is shone on his face, and he looks up in panic.
Filling the air.
The guard shouts for him to stop and draws his gun. Aerial shot reveals every guard take notice and start to converge. The man grits his teeth, turns, and runs.
Oh, how they pound, raising the sound.
Shots are fired after him as stuffed bears and wooden soldiers explode all around him.
Gaily they ring while people sing.
Stop! The guards shout. He takes a corner too hard and falls. As he climbs to his feet, A guard appears and fires.
Merry, 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 merry Christmas. Merry, 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 merry Christmas.
The guard comes forward and is revealed to be just a kid, who looks in horror on the body of the intruder.
On they send, on without end.
A pool of blood spreads from around the man, circling the box which has fallen from his hands, and is revealed to be a Turbo Man Mark 17 action figure.
Their joyful tone to every home.
Cut to a silent family dinner with one space empty.
Ding dong, ding dong.
The caption reads 1 year later and then fades. As the family continue to eat in silence, a caption appears on the screen with the ever so slightest J2. Then a moment later, in silence, Jingle Day.
Wow, you really set the scene. That's atmospheric.
Oh my god, guys. Got shivers.
Yeah, I've got goosebumps.
So, I think like the plot concerns a mum, an older son, and a younger son. We have a scene at the beginning demonstrating the mum and the boys. And the dad, died in the opening credit sequence trying to get this toy. And the mum has a good relationship with the elder son, but he's kind of pulling away. Perhaps he's like always on his phone or something. And the mum's like playing with the infant brother and is developing a good relationship, but she's kind of concerned at the idea of her son slipping away from her. Then she sees like a Turbo Man playset advert on the television and has a flashback to playing with the elder son when he was a boy with the Turbo Man toy. And she sort of gets this look of determination on her. Then the youngest son gets dropped off at the grandma's house. It's Christmas Eve.
Is there an echo in here?
Day before Christmas Eve, and yeah, they drop off the son, and the mum suggests that the next day they make it their mission to go out and find a Turbo Man set for the infant son. And the elder son complains this is going to be really difficult so close to Christmas, but ultimately he's on board with the idea of a mum and son adventure before Christmas.
Mm-hmm.
They look online and they find out a set is available in a nearby toy store, but they head down and they find a vicious crowd. And what follows is, I think, the first action sequence, which is kind of a raid-style fight sequence across 3 floors of this store with like people jumping between levels and such.
Okay.
It's pretty gruesome. Early on, it really sets the scene if that prologue didn't already. Arms snapped. Somebody gets their fingers bitten off.
Oh man!
Yeah.
So this is still a children's film, right?
Well,
I'm figuring the audience for J2 Jingle Day are going to be people like me, the only people on earth who gave a shit about Jingle All The Way as a kid, who have now grown up and become bitter, angry adults. So,
are you saying you're now Sinbad? just this rage-filled sociopath, yeah.
Yeah, so it turns out that there was a mistake. There's no toy here, and one blonde guy is really angry about this and like throws a Barbie toy at the clerk who's telling them all. Later on, the mother and son see him getting into a car, and they're like, "Hey, you shouldn't have thrown that. That was, you're taking this too far." And he's just like a dick about it. Then we need like a series of scenes that take up like the day of Christmas Eve, so demonstrating the increasingly ridiculous attempts to get this set during the day. That could be our one montage.
Okay.
Who's going to have the one? Somewhere in and amongst it, we need the Sinbad bonding moment in the diner, where the blonde guy explains that he just wants to recapture his childhood, which he didn't really get to have when he were a boy. The sun is coming down, and one of the fights, the action sequences involves everybody's in a store, and they find out another store has a Turbo Man set. So everyone's trying to get out of the parking unit, which is a multi-floored parking thing.
Mm-hmm.
And the blonde guy's in like a Hummer, and he's crushing other cars and like driving over them and doing jumps between levels, whilst the mum and the son, they're in like a little Fiat, so they can get into the tight spaces and like do sick turns and go onto their sides and such. Ultimately, I think it ends with the son like on the roof, like the thing's flipped and he's upside down and he's still in the car buckled in, and he sees the Fiat driving off towards the potential next target.
Mm-hmm.
And he gets his phone out and he says, "Dad, I need your help." The next day,
but Dad's dead.
At the place they were heading to, there's a fight which is broken out in like a tiny Christmas village centerpiece. Like maybe the toy's like at the center of it, and they're all like doing parkour moves up the Christmas village and stuff. I figured the eldest son is like quite good. He's like, I was about to make a Surf Ninjas reference.
Yes, that film that 3 people have seen. It's just like that.
Oh Christ!
We'll take your word for it.
Yep, sure.
The mum is more like sensible and practical and gets through the action sequences for a mixture of like common sense and luck. Like whilst the Eddie Race Jr. kid is doing backflips up the building, she just like gets into a lift or something and looks concerned. But yeah, like candy canes are getting thrown about the place, and the eldest son holds like a gingerbread man and is like swinging it at people. And you know, just when it looks like he's going to triumph, you hear from behind him, "Put the cookie down." Turn around, and it's Arnie, blonde guy's dad.
Yeah.
Put that cookie down now!
Ensuing action sequence, nobody manages to get the toy, but the mother and son learn that a guy ordered a set and has now requested a refund and is due to bring it back to the store like in the new year. So he lives way outside of the city. And so basically the final act of the film is a Mad Max style convoy chase sequence where this whole group of parents are like heading out to this remote house outside of the city to try and get this toy, whilst like jumping between cars and like with ridiculous things added onto it. So and Arnie is there, and he still has his Turbo Man outfit.
Oh yeah.
So he's using it to like fish the boy out of the car, and there's like all sorts of.
I like to think at this stage there's a definite like dark web thing about this going on, where Cyberdyne have been interested in this, and because when he first used it, it was the only working jetpack in the world, I think. And there have been like prototypes and things like that, and of course the government has been really into like developing their own prototype Turbo Man, but Arnie's still the original, and there's a whole backstory there which isn't necessarily gotten into in the film, but in the canonical novels that are sort of written like around the film, all of this is gone into in quite heavy detail.
Okay, yeah, I like it.
By the time they get to the house, it's just the mother and son's beat up Fiat that's managed to survive the crazy like action sequence. And as they get there, they find out that the guy who wants the refund is actually Sinbad. And he's returning it because his dirtbag son didn't actually show up with his grandson to give the toy to, and like he has a whole Sinbadian rant about it. About how ungrateful. Yeah, about how Wheatus made his son, and about, all that stuff. And then my next note is ending of some sorts. So, Goodman, over to you.
Okay. So there is obviously a pursuit scene from the Turbo Man chasing the mother and the son. They obviously get into a toy factory, which is shut down over Christmas. Obviously, as all toy factories should be. And he chases her. He's seeming indestructible. The son is also, he's a bit troubled. This is Arnie's son, old Jake Lloyd. He's like, I didn't realise my dad had such a crazy sort of.
Have you got Jake Lloyd back for this, or have you got Hayden Christensen?
Ooh,
shit!
Hologram Hayden Christensen, maybe. And through they scuffle. The production line is accidentally turned on, and the mum and the son are on it, and they're getting fed through the machine, and they have to like duck through. When the arms are coming in and like putting bits of the toy together, and then Turbo Man is following until they get to the. How all toy factories have like a molten lava center.
Not molten lava, but like molten plastic, maybe for the casting.
Yeah,
so
you're
it's
right.
like liquid plastic.
Yeah,
I'm familiar with that.
Yeah, well, they get to that bit, and there's a whole like they finally scuffle. The kid is like knocked unconscious with Arnie's Turbo Man backhand, and he gets the mother by the throat, and he's like holding her over the molten plastic, and he looks at her and he says, "Pet this," and then just as he's about to throw her into the molten plastic, the kid digs like a bit of factory metal into the jetpack. It goes crazy, and it shoots Arnie all over the factory. The kid manages to save his mum before she's dropped into the molten plastic. Arnie ricochets about the factory, and then the jetpack explodes, sending him into the molten plastic. And as he goes down, we are of course treated to one final thumbs up before Arnie is gone.
But I say he clambers. I say he clambers out, and it's like trying to, after the thumbs up bit, he clambers out and he's like striding across, trying to still get them. But then he freezes, and now he is a literal Turbo Man toy.
Oh,
nice,
very
nice.
Yeah, then cut to black, right? No, I don't know how to. Very much like Jingle All The Way, I'm not sure how to end this story.
I like the idea of having, in a Gaspar Noé way, having all the credits at the beginning of the film. so that when it does cut to black, it just cuts to black. The lights go up in the cinema, and everybody feels really bad and weird.
Okay, I've got it. Okay. Yeah, a long shot of Jake Lloyd approaching his now plastic dad and like dropping to his knees. Cut away from that. That's the end of their story. And now we have mum and elder son driving off back towards the city. They haven't managed to get a Turbo Man doll. And they say, I guess your little brother's going to have a really boring Christmas this year. Maybe he's always going to have boring Christmases. And the elder son's like, maybe. And then suddenly, like, over the radio or something that they have, there's like, or maybe throughout the film he's been having a phone and it's like, stock alert. Turbo Man in stock in, I don't know, somewhere. And they both look at each other and kind of smile, and then they rev into the distance.
The mum cocks a shotgun with one hand.
She didn't have that for the whole of the rest of the film.
Yes.
The end.
Nice.
Yep, I'm sold.
Oh, you guys have set a bar that we're practiced, but we can't reach.
Well, the thing is, this is our only chance to do this. You have to do this every week.
That's true.
This is all of our episodes of Beyond the Box Set stuffed into one. One idea.
Yeah, we're never inviting you back.
Bring us back. Bring us back next week. We're gonna have nothing.
Yeah.
Like M. Night Shyamalan, one and done.
Yeah, we've been doing this for a year now, and we are spent creatively. Okay, cool. No, that's very, very good. I think I'll definitely pay to see that.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
Cool. Any questions, Harry?
No.
Okay, so should we get to our idea now?
Please do.
Okay, great. Okay, so ours is it's a remake, made in 2017, obviously. And so first thing we thought is, well, we need to actually cast this. So who do you guys think is the modern day Arnold Schwarzenegger?
Now that's interesting. It's come a bit away from the idea of casting people in action movies just because they look good.
Do you think?
Jason
I
Statham.
think so. Maybe. Or Gina Carino.
No.
That'd be amazing. Ooh. Okay. Now you're asking.
The Rock.
There we go.
Yeah. We came to the exact. We're like, it's one of two people. It's The Rock or it's Vin Diesel, and really it's The Rock. So.
Oh, The Rock.
Oh, it's got to be The Rock. Come on.
Yeah.
You want some charisma in your movie.
And so then we thought, well, who do we cast as Sinbad? Who can sort of play a very, very high energy role with like a hint of evil to him as well. And well, John, I think you suggested Chris Rock, which then leads us on to our title.
Okay.
Jingle Bell Rock.
Nice.
The Rock and Chris Rock
nice.
in Jingle Bell Rock. So I think the sequel, this remake, I should say, the idea of it is that it's a slightly more adult take. It's kind of Jingle All The Way by way of the Fast and Furious franchise. So in this version, Harry is the Rock / Arnold Schwarzenegger character. Harry is a drug dealer. And he's actually, like many gangsters, he has a legitimate business that acts as a front for his illegal practices. So the system that he's using is that...
We've done a lot of research into this, by the way.
Yes. This was a long evening we spent looking into how this would work out.
Empirical research, I hope.
Yes.
Undercover.
We are wasted right now. So his front for his drug dealing enterprise is that he has a factory that manufactures toys. And those toys are called Lovabella dolls, which are a real thing.
We had a look into what was the most popular toy of Christmas 2017, and it is a doll called Lovabella, who is an artificially intelligent doll who
oh my God.
changes her behaviour depending on how she's played with. So the expression she does, the things that she says, it all changes depending on how she's played with.
Christ, well, goodbye humanity. Nice to know you.
I think it's really creepy. I don't like it. I'm not for it.
Yeah.
What if my kid raises it a monster? Like, I go in to clean up after the kid's gone to school and it's just there like, why am I so ugly?
It's like that Treehouse of Horror episode where the Krusty doll just starts like trying to kill Homer, isn't it?
Fuck me. I think of this like tortured doll just like dashing cups of piss into its own face after like hours of psychological torture from your progeny.
Yeah.
I do highly recommend, after this podcast is over, going and YouTubing the commercials for Lovabella dolls, because they are the stuff of nightmares.
That is so creepy.
Yeah.
Say hello to Lovabella, the baby with so many real surprises. Mama. The more you love and care for her, the more she'll amaze you.
Mama. So our initial idea was to have some kind of way of The Rock smuggling drugs in these artificially intelligent dolls using the Amazon drone system as a mode of transport. But then we thought, no, there's no story there, so we done something else.
So as I say, his legitimate business is manufacturing these dolls, and he has a sideline in which he's also selling a lot of high-end drugs. And so he has a main line of dolls that are just produced and sold to toy stores, and then he has a secondary line of a much smaller line of dolls which are produced, which will have drugs stuffed into the back of them, and they'll be delivered to buyers, or to other drug dealers and other gangs, etc. And so this film opens, we see the factory, we see it producing all of these terrifying Lovabella dolls, and somehow, movie magic, there is some kind of mix-up, and oh no, the dolls that have grade A heroin stuffed into the back of them are accidentally delivered to a local independent toy store instead of their proper destination. So this is a disaster.
Harry then gets a call from his boss saying, "Find the missing dolls, or else I'll shove a Christmas tree so far up your ass that I'll be able to place the star on the tree poking out of your mouth."
Who's playing the boss?
We were thinking Vincent D'Onofrio, but
yeah,
nice.
This is pretty much the only part he's got in it, though. So
that'd be terrifying as well.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, he's terrifying, but also we're thinking like in the Daredevil franchise, he kind of looks like a giant baby. So it could be like he would look like a Lovabella. So because he's got he's bald, he's got the romper suit, he's got the big belly, he's very babyish. So yeah,
very meta.
So this is the stakes of the film, is that The Rock is this small time. Well, he's got his own factory, but he has a higher up boss that he works for, who basically tells him that if he doesn't retrieve this massive batch of heroin that's currently on its way to a local toy store, there's going to be a hiss out on him. He's going to be a marked man. So, of course, he races to the shop. They've all been delivered to this one shop. There's maybe a batch of like $12 or something. He races to the shop, and of course, as soon as he gets there, they've all sold out because Lovabella is the most popular toy of the season. So he has to go to the store owner, maybe played by Chris Parnell again. We didn't cast that role, so he could reprise his role. Maybe
He's got a promotion as store owner.
Yeah, he's buckled down, he's worked hard, he's climbed that ladder.
That's amazing. I love this idea already.
Right. So he goes to this store owner, and through a mixture of kind of sweet talking and threats, manages to get a list of the people who bought the dolls.
Rival gangster Chris Rock, who we finally get introduced to, has somehow got wind of these missing drugs and goes to the same shop just after The Rock, gets the same list out of the cashier, but by intimidation rather than by sweet talking.
Establishing which is the good and which is the evil dealer of heroin. We need The Rock to be the more sympathetic heroin dealer of the two. So.
Yeah. I don't think The Rock can play a bad guy.
No.
He can play a drug dealer, not a bad guy.
A cuddly one.
But he was the Scorpion King.
Oh yeah, of course.
Who could forget?
Of course you guys would remember that.
Yeah.
Ooh. So, well, the middle of the film is largely going to be around several different situations where The Rock and Chris Rock are fighting to get all the dolls. There'll be certain situations in other shops where they're, well, maybe not fighting over bouncy balls, but there'll be things like that. There'll be the whole bomb situation in the radio station, but it's a real bomb this time. Just adding a bit more weight to the world.
Yeah, we wanted this to be a lot more kind of real, so that bomb sequence might play out exactly the same, except when it cuts, rather than being like the Looney Tunes style kind of, the blackened face and the exaggerated faint, it's just a room full of charred bodies and essentially
like the Punisher. Basically.
Yeah, basically. Yeah. This is Jingle All The Way by way of the Punisher. So that's happening, and obviously there's got to be a domestic side plot where The Rock, his character Harry, is married. He's got a young. We went for a daughter. We gender flipped it, so now he's got a daughter who's going to be played by. Did we agree with Millie Bobby Brown, or is she too old?
Yeah, we did. Millie Bobby Brown.
We thought she might be a little bit old to be interested in dolls, but then we thought, she's got range. She's a great actress. So she's 13, but she can play 7. She can play 17. She's got it all.
At all these little action sequences, The Rock does manage to get the drugs back, stashes them in his car, and then he gets a call from his wife. Oh, by the way, his wife, we haven't cast her. We were thinking, given what's-her-face's hairstyle...
Yes. As a tribute to Risa Wilson's rocking a really terrible version of the Rachel, the only choice really to play Liz is Jennifer Aniston herself.
Yes. Okay. Good. I like this.
As kind of a gangster's mole, kind of. I think Jennifer Aniston doing an Edie Falco impersonation, that's what we're going for, I think.
Nice.
Yes, we'll see how that goes. Phone call. Hi, honey. You better be coming home for Christmas.
Yeah, babe. I've just got some quick things to take care of, and then I promise I will be straight home. I don't know why The Rock is now Austrian, but I made a choice in the moment of committing to it.
We didn't agree on that. Fine, but if you let Jamie down again, it's over. I'm sick of your family coming second to your career. You think you're a good dad? Well, Ted, from next door, queued up a 4 this morning to get one of those Lovabella dolls. There were only 6 in stock. Why can't you be that good at dad?
Of course I'm going home in time, and Jamie doesn't even like Loverbella.
Well, I want her to get into more feminine things. I'm worried about it. She's only interested in violent video games and watching old Turbo Man reruns.
Okay, I'll see what I can do, babe. I won't let you down.
And they hang up without saying goodbye.
Because this relationship is tense. It's on the rocks.
Mm-hmm.
So, from this conversation, the Rock has learned that the last remaining drug-filled doll is, in fact, at his next-door neighbour Ted's house. So, he drives home, and he sneaks into Ted's house. And Ted is, of course, across the road, sexually harassing Liz, his own wife.
Can you guess who we've cast as Ted?
Now, Phil Hartman's dead.
Yes.
So, a CGI Phil Hartman.
Nah, who do you think could play well off Jennifer Aniston?
Oh, shit. Not David Schwimmer.
Yes.
Oh, my God.
The most eligible bachelor on the whole block. David Schwimmer. All the women can't get enough of that sweet, sweet Schwimmer ass.
Oh, man.
Schwimmer Fever 2017.
Eligible, for sure.
Yeah. So hilarity obviously ensues when the Rock breaks into David Schwimmer's house, but he immediately gets caught by Ted's monkey, who is called Rocky. And this is obviously a tribute to Marcel, the monkey character from Friends, but also the reindeer. It's basically the reindeer.
Marcel?
Yeah, the reindeer is a monkey in this one. So a very vicious fight scene ensues, in which the house is basically destroyed, and it concludes when the Rock just punches the monkey square in the face and knocks it out.
Cool. Serves him right.
This entire sequel's been building to the next paragraph, so Harry, go for it.
When Rocky, the monkey, comes around, the Rock sits in a rocking chair and gives it whiskey on the rocks, some Rocky Road cake, and puts on Rocky 4. In the meantime, Chris Rock steals the Rock's car and drives away down a road which may have some falling rocks, while listening to classic rock song Rock Lobster on Rock FM. Rock and roll.
Nice.
Yes.
This is okay. I see the thrust now. You're pinning everything on the Rock.
What if you don't get the Rock?
If the Rock turns it down, we're screwed.
Yeah.
It's like being John Malkovich.
Yeah, we'll have to hire Chrissy Rock or something to make it a Scouse melodrama. So the Rock steals Ted's car and follows Chris Rock to a warehouse, and he sneaks in, and as he overhears Chris Rock talking to his fellow gangsters.
Chris Rock says that the only way they're going to get this amount of drugs smuggled out of the city is to hijack the parade and do it right under the cops' noses.
So there's a Loverbella float in the parade this year, replacing the Turbo Man float from the original film. There's now going to be a Loverbella float with all the actors dressed as these terrifying babies. So there's going to be a person in a Loverbella costume and several of her magical friends, basically. And there's also going to be a special edition life-size Loverbella doll, which is going to be big enough to stash all of the drugs in. And like the original film, Chris Rock, who's going to be dressed as Loverbella, is going to nominate a child to win the drug-filled doll. However, the winning child, as part of the scheme, the winning child is actually a little person dressed as a child, and that little person is going to be played by Peter Dinklage, obviously.
Okay.
Yeah.
Realising that he needs to get onto the parade float to retrieve the doll, the Rock knocks out a passing Santa Claus and jumps aboard the float. He declares that Peter Dinklage has been the bad boy and tries to grab the doll back, but Dinklage pulls out a flick knife and a violent fight ensues, much to the horror of the parade watchers.
So the Rock manages to grab the doll and drop-kick Peter Dinklage off the float, but he's immediately attacked by Chris Rock and his cronies, who are all dressed as Loverbella dolls, unicorns and teddy bears and, beautiful childish things. So we're going to have a really vicious fight scene with The Rock beating up Chris Rock and beating up all these babies and unicorns and teddy bears, etc., with smashed cuts to children in the parade just crying and screaming, "Santa, no!"
He manages to defeat all the criminals with the help of Rocky, the fighter monkey, who swings in out of nowhere at the 11th hour. The criminals are all exposed and arrested, with The Rock hailed as a vigilante hero who saved the parade.
And so his daughter Jamie, played by Millie Bobby Brown, runs up and says, "Santa, you kick ass!" To which he replies, "Thank you, little girl. Now, what would you like for Christmas this year?"
"I just wish my dad could have been here," she replies.
"Well, Jamie, Merry Christmas."
He pulls off his hat and fake beard, revealing himself to be the kick-ass Santa Claus.
So the crowd cheers as family's hugging him, and in a hero pose with an American flag unfurling behind him, he just says, "Merry Christmas, everyone," and the credits roll.
Post-credit scene, still at the parade. Jamie says, "So, Dad, whatever happened to the special edition Loverbella doll those gangsters were trying to steal?"
We hear a shrieking monkey noise from Rocky, who has opened the back of the doll and whose face is now covered in white powder.
The Rock gasps, puts his hands to his cheeks, and looks direct to the camera. Movie ends.
Nice.
Marvellous. I like how you. Okay, so first things first. I like how you made The Rock harder to distinguish for his daughter. You gave him the beard as well. It's not obviously The Rock. Okay.
I don't know. Give The Rock a beard. I'm pretty sure he's going to look like The Rock in a beard.
And a hat.
He's got a hat, There's a whole illusion going on.
Oh, you fooled us again with your rock hat. You and that hat.
It works for Batman.
But yeah, I'm pretty happy with that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Any questions?
awesome.
Yeah, I like it. It's 2017. It's got an edgier edge. Yeah, everyone loves The Rock. I love The Rock.
Who doesn't love The Rock?
Yeah, exactly.
It's just so lovable.
Yeah, no, he is, and I like how the fight scene between him and David Schwimmer. It reminded me a bit of is it Fast 6 where he flexes his way out of like an arm cast?
Yes, it's the 6th one.
Yeah, and then he picks up a big rail gun and is standing on like a collapsing building as he fires at a helicopter.
Yes.
It reminded me a bit of that with the whole
sounds...
like the full and destruction thing going on.
To me, that says Christmas.
Yes. Yeah, this film, I think you'll all agree, is very Christmassy.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Oh, man.
Good Christmas message.
Okay, so if there's no further questions, we'll then move on to our listener submissions, because every week we ask our listeners to submit their ideas for sequels to the films that we've covered. So this week we had some very good suggestions for Jingle All The Way. So we have Theme Park Films suggested that Jake Lloyd is now grown up and an actor, and he's auditioning to play Turbo Man, much in the way they cast Spider-Man as a new actor in every few films. As he turns up, he sees Sinbad's son is in the last two with him, so they get down to the final two, and Arnie and Sinbad try to sabotage each other's chances to make sure that their son is the one who gets the role, and hilarity ensues or something.
Okay.
I can
It's
see
got a bit
that.
of a This Means War sort of feel to me. Who's gonna play Sinbad's son though?
It's a good point. Who could play a younger Sinbad?
Obviously, for me, it'd be Michael B. Jordan from about 15 years ago. So if we can make it in the past, that would be ideal.
Yeah.
I mean, does Sinbad have a son? This could be another O'Shea Jackson Jr. Situation where he's like, find a new talent.
Absolutely. As I said before, I have very strong doubts about the fact that the character certainly doesn't have a son. But
what if Sinbad is playing his own son?
See, that seems more realistic.
Yeah.
Well, like Gary Oldman in what was it called? When he's just kneeling on shoes.
Oh, when he's playing a little person. And
Yeah.
We need to watch that.
Oh,
sometime.
God.
There's a film where Gary Oldman plays a little person. And he just does it by like walking on his knees. It is so awkward.
And Peter Dinklage is actually in it. Like, it's not so they have actual, like, the demographic who are most going to be offended by this are also in the movie, so they can be offended in person as well.
God.
Wow.
That was pre Game of Thrones, wasn't it? Though I think at that point Dinklage was taking what he could get. Like,
oh man, yeah.
Sad, very sad. So Dad's Zonecast at Dad's Zonecast, their idea was Jingle 2, Child's Play 11. So I'm guessing this is some kind of...
Nice.
Wow.
So in this, the Langston family are terrorized by Turbo Man, who is now possessed by the evil spirit of none other than Charles Manson. So that's it. Timely and dark.
Okay.
Yeah.
Rush to get that one out.
Yeah. Blokebusters at Blokebusters. Theirs is called, I like the title here, it's Kringle All The Way.
They did a title?
They did a title.
Oh my God, finally.
Yeah. So Kringle All The Way. And it's the plot of the Santa Claus, but with Howard as the main character. So I guess this is Arnie accidentally kills Santa Claus and then becomes him, as in the plot of the classic Tim Allen movie, The Santa Claus.
Or is it that Arnie accidentally kills Turbo Man and then like goes to look in the mirror and finds his chin has doubled in size or something? Like,
oh yeah, that's a possibility. Yeah,
his spine is into a working jetpack.
Yeah. Anyway, Oh No Lit Class. But their idea was that an aging Arnie and Sinbad hunt Larry the Cable Guy for sport. Larry the Cable Guy being the American comic who was in the direct-to-DVD sequel to this film.
Nice.
It just happens to take place during Christmas. So I guess it's kind of a Predator meets Jingle All The Way, I guess.
Via Unforgiven.
Via Unforgiven, yeah.
Marvellous.
Claire McCallan at Let me get a Twitter name. At ManicPixie88 says Jingle All The Way 2, Turbo Man versus Terminator, which is pretty self-explanatory. It's Arnie versus Arnie, but which Arnie will win? It's a festive romp for the whole family. 12 and above only.
Turbo Man, definitely.
Turbo Man, right?
Turbo Man can fly.
Okay. Yeah, that's true.
Terminator, though.
I'm going Turbo Man. I reckon Turbo Man's got some sort of like magnetic ray that could just do it.
Well, in the TV show at the beginning, he just had these little like plastic things that fired out of his wrist. I don't think that'd stop Terminator anytime soon.
Terminator definitely had the old quippage down.
Yeah, and I think he's got the arsenal as well.
Yeah. I think actually most physical fights do tend to come down to quippage.
Yes.
So,
Yeah, that is, yeah.
It works by Monkey Island rules.
Yeah.
Thank God Mr. Freeze isn't in this scenario because it wouldn't be a fair fight at all.
God, the 90s was just Arnie getting into increasingly ridiculous superhero outfits.
There's definitely some kind of Venn diagram you can make of that. And finally, a friend of ours, Ross Burton, at RB Circus Artist.
Oh, not that guy.
I know. His suggestion is an alternate reality involving any other Arnie character and how they might deal with not being able to get the toy they want for their kid. So how would the Terminator deal with getting a toy for his kid? How would Conan the Barbarian? How would Arnie from the Commando, etc.? So
Arnie from Commando would be amazing. He'd pick up a stewardess on the way to the store who just wanted nothing to do with anything, and would just go around killing random people,
cutting people in half with the stewardess.
Yeah, well, Ross's suggestion was that the shortest, bloodiest, and best one would probably be Conan, because it would be a bloodbath in a toy store, and it would end with him giving a dramatic monologue on a throne with the toy lamenting the boredom of having got all that he desired and the adventure being over. So.
Oh well. Yeah.
Enough talk.
So yeah, those are our listener ideas this week. All very good. All very. I think they're all definitely serviceable. So thanks for those guys. And yeah, that's pretty much it from us. So if you have a sequel idea for Jingle All The Way, or any other film we've done in the past, or any films you'd like us to do in the future, get in touch with us. We are Beyond the Box Set. You can find us on all good forms of social media: Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Tumblr, Google+. Just search Beyond the Box Set. We are Beyond the Box Set on all of that. If you like the show, please subscribe to us. We're available on all good podcasting networks, including iTunes, Stitcher, Acast, Google Play, Player FM, Podbean, etc. Stitcher, did I say Stitcher? We're on everything. Subscribe to us. If you really like us, leave us a review. We'd really appreciate it. And while you're at it, leave One Good Thing review as well and subscribe to them because they're a great show.
Thank you.
So,
Thank you.
Yeah, so thank you guys for coming on. We much appreciate it. Do you want to plug your show a little bit again before we sign off? Let listeners know where they can find you, etc.
It's quite good.
Yes.
Yes. That's what we've been told. You can find us on not as many things as you guys, but we're on some of the things. If you want to reach us, we're at Twitter and Facebook at OGTPod. Available to download on iTunes, Stitcher, some other places, Buzzsprout, and the internet in general. I think if you Google us, we'll probably be there.
I've done nothing else ever apart from like an article from 1996 in a Crime Watch thing, which is just bullshit. Don't even worry about it. It's bullshit.
Yeah, I've got that.
Totally lame.
Yeah,
I'm intrigued.
Yeah.
I've got a sexy poem that's doing the rounds, but honestly, it's best kept under lock and key. Other than that, we try to be positive week after week, no matter what, and sometimes it works, sometimes it even happens. So yeah, it's always good to have a few more people behind us propping up the positivity pools.
Yeah, I'd agree. There's a lot of podcasts out there that do kind of bad movies, but I think what you guys do that makes it stand out is that you do take it from a very positive perspective without sacrificing the humour, and I think that works really well. And it's a great show, so everyone do check it out if you're not already. So, and we're both members of the Britpod Scene Network as well, so that's how you can find us and other great podcasts with British accents. So.
Yeah. Yes, represent. Thank you very much. Thanks for having us. It was a lot of fun.
No worries. It's been an absolute pleasure.
It was really cool.
Oh, thanks, guys.
Cool.
Okay.
Well,
so
until next time.
Yeah. So next week, what are we doing next week, Harry?
Oh yeah, next week. Well, it's our year end, isn't it? So we're gonna do a best of 2017.
Yeah. So we're gonna go slightly off format, and we're gonna pitch like one-line sequels to our favourite and least favourite movies of 2017.
As in the films that came out in 2017.
Yeah. So
whether they are sequels or not, we're going to break our rule for next week.
We're just going to talk about the films we like this year, and then we're going to just very quickly, rather than like a full story, we'll just be like one line, 2-line concept of what a sequel might look like. So
yeah,
if you've been wondering what Dunkirk 2 is going to look like, we will let you know. It's crying out for it.
Just Dunkirk 2, and it's just people on a beach. Like, where's everyone?
Yep, I like it.
Yeah.
Dunkirk 2, Lost in New York.
Fabulous.
What? How does that even work?
One boat went too far.
Oy.
I said I wanted to get off the beach, but this is ridiculous.
Amazing.
Cool. So yeah, thanks guys, and I guess that's it. So see you next week.
That's it. See you next week.
Bye.
Bye.